What's up, everybody? Hope you're all well. Welcome to season 2020. Please be sure to like and subscribe. It helps spread the channel to other Carlton supporters, and I'm looking forward to getting stuck right into it. So I was there this morning, really weird conditions, pretty warm and smoky and foggy and windy. And for those of you who've already watched the training highlights video, you could hear the actual wind and the gust blowing and the leaves scraping against the ground, and it was just a weird day all around in terms of conditions. But the boys trained for just over 2 hours. I'm not going to lie, I left the session feeling a little bit underwhelmed, knowing what I had seen in the previous session, which was that pre-Christmas session. Now obviously they had been training for about 4, 5, 6 weeks. They had a decent block behind them. They've had their break now. They trained on Friday. They trained this morning. So really it's their second session back for the year. So a little bit of rust and just shaking out those cobwebs. The skills were not as sharp as what they were in the previous session, but the intensity is still there. And Andrew Russell has got them doing some serious training. It's mental training, it seems, the way they go about it. But anyway, enough of me. And this was a good sight to see Harry back running. You know, it's always it's important to see him back out there. There is a little bit of concern with him coming from me in that he was out there for about 25 minutes, if that. He did these sideline runs. There was at one point there where Andrew Russell was behind him just watching his form, and I was sitting next to Heath Buck from My Blue Heaven, and we were talking about, is he looking to change his running pattern similar to what he did to Cyril Rioli at Hawthorn? I don't really know. It's been one of those situations where we've been kept in the dark a little bit. Maybe the club are just managing the expectation or the emotions that we would have if Harry has done something serious. But look, he's out there. He did 25 minutes more running than what he did pre-Christmas from what I saw at training anyway. So that's a good sign. He looks big. He looks fit. And hopefully we get him back on the park sooner rather than later. They moved into this kicking warm-up drill, which was pretty good. And to be honest, the skills here were pretty good. I'm not going to lie. It was probably once the fatigue started kicking in that it really started to show. This was another good sight here. Caleb Marchbank moving that trademark leap. That was really good to see. I thought from what I saw from him, the way he was running, he ran quite a few laps today, and he really lifted the intensity of the running. So that was pleasing to see. And, he's another key pillar to, the key position stocks that we have. Because I think it's Wiedering and himself who are really going to take this club forward as defenders. I know Jones is playing, really good footy at the moment. Still got plenty of time left, but Marchbank is quite younger than him. So hopefully we can get Caleb to a point where he's playing regular footy year in, year out, because unfortunately he's been pretty injury prone. So the boys moved on to this long kicking drill. The emphasis was really just to make sure they were going back on the mark and hitting that same spot. Not sure if this is a tactic we're going to be using throughout the year, but it was good to see some of these boys roosting the ball there. Then they moved him into this full ground running, and this happened about 4 times throughout the session. Blow the whistle and just take note while you're watching this of who's at the front of the group, and you can see this is at the end of that run there, who finishes at the front. Lockie O'Brien's obviously standing out here. Matt Cottrell's a good runner. Ed Kerno's always there. It's good to see Sam Doherty there, and he's one of those people that I've spoken about trying to keep a lid on it, but you'll see in the match sim shortly, he is flying. And Heath mentioned it on his training report, in that we've got to be a bit cautious with Sam. We're all going to have our hearts and our mouths with him. There was a moment in the match sim today, which I didn't get on film, where he went back with the flight of the ball, just that trademark movement of his, and we all just sort of looked at each other like, oh God. So it's going to be a bit of that for this year. But, look, he's out there. He did the whole session, and that was really pleasing. They moved into some match sim, as you can see here, and this is really what we come for. We like to see the intensity. And for me, there were a few standouts during the match sim. Lockie O'Brien, he's really elevated his running capacity, and he was just on the end of that last kick. and it was great to see. He's really pushing himself, and it seems like we're going to look to really get him the ball on the outside, particularly with that last kick moving inside 50. And now it's just on him to hit his targets. But he really looks to have taken a step forward. I'll show you glimpses here. Dave Cunningham, this is just pure talent right here. This is elite. Ed Kerner did it as well. That was good to see. Look, like I said, the skills weren't great at times, but the intensity was there. You're looking here at a Will Setterfield bump here on poor Matty Cottrell. He absolutely rid him into the turf, but this is the intensity we want to see from the boys. And on that note, good to see Will Setterfield back in action. The fact that he's really physically imposing himself is a step in the right direction, because that's probably something he didn't do last year, just due to the fact that he was coming off the knee and wanting to get that right. So now that he's got that full year behind him, he can now focus on playing that really inside, big-bodied midfield role, and that's exciting. You're looking here at, Liam Jones here. He's just, he's flying at training, and he's always been a guy that trains really well. I remember the Mick Malthouse days where he used to talk about how Liam Jones was the best player at the club at training, and so it's good to see him be able to translate that into games. The other notable here is probably Matt Kennedy. He's back training with the main group. He was doing the laps, as you would have seen previously, specifically in that December Christmas training video. I thought Paddy Dow he stood out in the match sim, and the reason is because he's got that burst. There was a moment there where Phil caught him. It was a bit of a decision-making thing for Paddy, where he should have probably handballed it out to, I think it was Lockie O'Brien, but he didn't. He chose to, bring the ball inside, and he paid for it. And the thing with Paddy that's interesting is he's playing that. He's moving like an inside midfielder, but I haven't seen his body really grow to play that role. So that's interesting. But anyway, we move on. The boys start running again. You'll see Finbar O'Dwyer here. He struggled a little bit with the running towards the end. I think it was Henry Playfair beat him in the 400s at the end. And, look, fair enough. Henry Playfair's not doing any of the match sim. So he's probably not as knackered, but yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. Yeah, Sam Philp, this is an interesting one. I think out of all of the first year players, he's really standing out, and he's got that class, he's got that burst of speed, and it stands out. It's a high profile thing to be doing, the way he moves off the mark. Is he going to be playing early? I'm not really sure, but I'm not in a rush to see him play ones yet. I'm happy for him to earn his way up, and that's the beauty of where we're at the moment, because we've got some depth. Speaking of, I do want to touch on the Mark Murphy situation. Unfortunately, I did see it happen. I didn't film it because I just didn't want to film the injury. I don't know, didn't feel right to be filming while he was down. But he was sort of jogging with the flight of the ball, and he was sort of moving this way but looking that way, and he just fell. He just collapsed down. And to be honest, my initial fear, seeing the way he reached for his foot, my initial fear was, has he done an Achilles? Because there was no one around him. Thankfully, the club has confirmed that it's a sprain or a bruise, and he's going to be out of action for 1 to 2 weeks on a modified program. So really good news for Murph. He's definitely someone that we need to be playing at his best for us to be competitive this year, and we're not really a club that can afford to have our top end players missing. So it's plagued us for the last 2 to 3 years, and we don't need it to happen again. So really thankful that he was okay. The other one that really stood out here to me is, and to everyone, I've read pretty much everyone's report, is Sam Walsh. I mean, the guy finds space. He's a ball winner. He always finds a way to be at the right place at the right time. He always finds a way to be at the next kick, whether it be if the ball's on the wing, he's always in that that centre position, ready for the inboard kick. And if the ball does go long, he finds a way to push himself to the contest. He's just phenomenal. And there were bursts of speed that I saw today that were, reminiscent of Chris Judd, in his Eagles days. And if Sam Walsh can add that type of running power, that burst of speed, then, we're onto a ripper here. And I spoke a little bit about Paddy Cripps and, how he might not win the Brownlee this year because he might have people stealing votes off him. I think Walsh is one of those guys that can genuinely do that. Another one that really stood out, and he always does, is Jacob Wiedering. He's strong, he reads the play, he's composed. I don't want to get too caught up in trying to read what's happening in the match sim here, because it was there were less people on the ground. The conditions weren't great. It was a sloppy session. But it's the things that you see in the clinches, the tackles, the things in tight, these explosive bursts, the way the ball was moving was pretty impressive today. We've definitely got a mantra of moving it on as quickly as possible. There's no doubt about that. We really want to be kicking the ball long and mark kick and then just run. And that's going to be good to see when that works for us. So looking forward to that. As you can see Samo here running with it. He's just, good user of the footy, and he always stands out at training. I thought he was very impressive today. And that was it. Looking forward to the next session. And if you haven't checked out the training highlights, I've got the full highlights with all the natural sounds and everything there. Just check that out. There'll be a link to that at the end of this video. And looking forward to the next one. Go the Blues.